Now it's my pleasure to introduce the second speaker, Jean-Claude Siha. Dr. Jean-Claude Siha received his PhD degree in 1995 from University of Paris and from Pasteur Institute. In 2003, he joined the l'Institut Pasteur de Lille as a laureate of the Young Investigator program at the ADP Avenir. And he obtained a tenure position at INSERM to develop research on epithelial innate immunity. The team led by Jean-Claude Siha investigates the role of immune cells and immune mediators in host defense during respiratory infections by pathogenic bacteria, especially antibiotic-resistant strains such as Streptococcus pneumoniae and Klebsiella pneumoniae. Now, Dr. Jean-Claude Siha, please.
We don't hear you, Jean-Claude. We see your slide, though. That's perfect, but we don't hear you.
Now you hear me.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's stronger and it's perfect.
Perfect. So let me just put a pointer. Okay, so I will present some of our work on toll-like receptor 5 signaling and how this is connected to airway epithelium and antimicrobial defenses. And my talk will be organized, I will say, the other way around compared to what Professor Sherry has presented a few minutes ago. So this work has been conducted in the Center for Infection and Immunity of Lille. This is a center that is based in the Pasteur Institute of Lille. And the work has been conducted by Christophe Carnoy, professor, Rémi Porte and Laura Matarazzo, that were PhD students in the lab a few years ago. Talentus postdoc Itziar San-Juan, recent PhD student Xin Li that joined the lab last year, and Delphine Caillet, that is an engineer in the lab. So our aim is to characterize the mechanism of antimicrobial defenses in the lung and to manipulate these mucosal defenses for therapeutic approaches. And one of the main focus is the innate immunity as a way to trigger these antibacterial defenses, because it's a universal system as presented before, and it's a natural system for generating antimicrobial defenses. Innate immunity is built-in and universal, so it's independent of individuals, and I will come back to that later in the human cell models. It's ubiquitous, so it means that it's expressed in most tissue and body compartments. So it could be a problem if you want to use it by systemic administration. It's immediately inducible within minutes. It mobilizes multiple immune effectors and immune cells that in turn will have a broad spectrum range of antibacterial activity, but also antiviral activity. We have that with the STING agonist. The result of this, it's less likely that bacteria develop resistance to such defense mechanisms that are so many. Most of the time, it's independent of antibiotic resistant mechanism. And another issue that is very interesting with innate immunity, it's a self-regulated process, meaning that it turns back to baseline very rapidly in a self-regulated manner. We're working now for, we say, 20 years on a bacterial protein that is flagellin. It's the main structural protein of flagellum of bacteria. We are working on the protein that is derived from Salmonella enterica cerovartifimurium. And this molecule, when it's released as a monomeric monomer form in the environment, is able to trigger some immunological activity. Flagellin is the agonist of the toll-like receptor 5, that is a cell surface receptor, but triggers, as most of these cell surface receptor, a transient activation of immune effector by NF-kappa B activation, MAP kinase activation, and will give rise to production of specific immune effectors. Compared to other agonists, we can see that the receptor encoding TLR5 is really a unique receptor because in this phylogenetic tree, we can see that it is really apart from other TLR agonists like TLR4 that is used in clinics, or TLR7, 8, 9, and so on. So it has really a peculiar specificity due to this specific branchment in the phylogenetic tree. What we know is that this molecule, as a monomer, is able to activate toll-like receptor 5 signaling, as represented here. There is also some knowledge now about the physical interaction between the TLR5 molecule and the toll-like receptor 5 receptor. So we know what are the specific motif of molecule that are involved in the signaling. And in most of our study, but I think I will not show you a lot about this, we have used two approaches to dissect the activity of TLR5 signaling in the biological activity of the molecule. Either a mutated form of flagellin, called flagellin TLR5 mutated, or TLR5 knockout animal. I will mention, even if it's not involved in the mechanism that I will show you, but flagellin can be also sensed by intracellular receptor from the NLR family, NLRC4 and NAIP activation. And this is mainly related to a motif that is in the C-terminus that can be deleted, giving rise to a mutated molecule, or in NLRC4 animals. But as I told you, most of the observation we found in the laboratory were associated to TLR5 signaling. So this is a scenario that we proposed from our studies, but also study from competitors about the activity of flagellin when delivered in the mucosal tract, especially in the respiratory tract. So this molecule, this flagellin, is able to signal at the epithelial surface through TLR5, and there will be innate signaling, immediate innate signaling that will be that will give rise to two kinds of response. The first one, it's a major response. It's a production of phagocyte-specific chemokines. There are many of them that will recruit neutrophil and monocytes, and we know that from the animal model that are very important cells. And the other mechanism of defense that could be triggered, it's the production of some antimicrobial molecules, and I will present you some example of these two mechanisms in the next slide. Beyond the innate activation, since innate and adaptive immunity are linked, as presented before, we know also that some epithelial factors, especially GM-CSF, are essential to prime the conventional dendritic cells, especially the CDC2 counterpart of these cells, that will trigger some adaptive immune response. So some Th1, Th2 mixed response, and the production of antibody, both at the systemic level and in the mucosal tract. We can find secretory IgA and also some IgG in this compartment, making this molecule also interesting for developing adaptive immunity. So what are the data we have generated that consolidate the role of epithelium signaling in the animal model? So we use a mouse model, and what we did initially was to instillate by intranasal route some flagellin. And this flagellin, as you can see here, is can be found in the bronchoalveolar lavage immediately after instillation, and then it is degraded over time. So the signal collapses over time. This is a positive control, IgG in the lavage. In the lung, it triggers a strong upregulation of some signaling pathway. This is a chemokine signaling pathway, as you can see from the control animal and over time. So there is a upregulation followed by some baseline levels after a certain amount of time. And here we have just fixed the value for 2 genes. And you can see that the kinetic is very rapid, immediate, and really transient. After 12 hours, we are more or less to the level of baseline. The second thing we have demonstrated is that using some approaches based either on laser microdissection of lung tissue or on hematopoietic chimera mice, that the structural and especially the bronchial epithelium compartment is essential for this signaling. So here we show for our favorite gene, CCL20, but we have reproduced that for the main gene of a signature. And here you can see that the response to the flagellin treatment is completely abrogated in TLR5 knockout mice, TLR5 in TLR5, is maintained when the hematopoietic compartment is knockout for TLR5, but is completely abrogated when the structural compartment, radio-resistant compartment is TLR5 knockout. So this was a very good indication that the bronchial epithelium is a major player in the response to flagellin. And the last thing I will show you, not the last one, one of the last things, sorry, but I will show you about the flagellin. It's the impact on the cell recruitment in the lung tissue. So here it's after instillation, we've looked at lung immune cell infiltration. And as you can see, very rapidly, we have an increase in the neutrophil numbers. We have also a strong increase in the monocyte compartment, and we have some effect also on the dendritic cells, but I will not comment on this. And here you have some immunohistology. This is a lung of mock-treated animals with a saline buffer. And here, after flagellin treatment, 24 hours later, we can see that we have many neutrophils that are infiltrating the tissue without disturbing, we say, the architecture of the tissue. That is an important issue. And this is the last experiment I wanted to show you on the mouse model. So in the mouse model, we also analyze the proteomic pattern in the bronchoalveolar lavage to define if we can find some molecule related to antimicrobial effects. So after different time post-instillation, we sample the lavage and we analyze using proteomic and semi-quantitative analysis expression of some molecule related to antimicrobial effect. We can find that the cathelicidin is strongly upregulated over time, that some calprotectin molecule can be found. Also, refri gamma is increased, the poly-Ig receptor, and some complement molecule. So meaning that there is something that is also induced at the protein level. So based on all these results, we started a few years ago to try to use this molecule to treat bacterial infection. So to do that, we engineer first a molecule, recombinant deimmunized flagellin. It's a prototype FLIC delta 174-400. This molecule is poorly immunogenic. It retains the immunostimulatory activity for TLR5. It's effective in the picomolar range, but it's very interesting. It's thermoresistant protein, so it's very easy to, very interesting property to produce it, and is highly water soluble. And to test the capacity of this agonist to treat infection, we focus on our favorite models of bacterial infection, that is Streptococcus pneumoniae. This is the first cause of community-acquired pneumonia and bacteremia also in the developed countries. And also it's a major cause of meningitis. It's a gram-positive bacteria, I already say is the cause. It's important cause of mortality worldwide, especially in the young infants and the elderly, despite vaccinations. And interestingly, this infection is known to be highly controlled by innate immunity, since individuals, human individuals that are defective for, deficient for MID88, a major adapter molecule for toll-like receptor signaling, and some interleukins, have increased susceptibility to pneumococcal infection. So we thought that this was really a good model to address that. So what we have done, this is one experiment among many of them. We have used in this experiment a model of superinfection. So a viral infection with influenza was performed in mice to render the animal hypersusceptible for a Streptococcus infection. So 7 days later, that is a window of hypersusceptibility, we infect with a small dose of pneumococcus, serotype 3, but is also an antibiotic resistant strain, at least intermediate resistance. That's what is known for pneumococcus. And 12 hours after the initiation of the infection, when the infection is really progressing, we treated the animal with the flagyellin by intranasal route or saline. And we also administer the standard of care for bacterial infection, that is an antibiotic. Here we use a subtherapeutic dose of amoxicillin, that is 100 or 300 micrograms by intragastric route. And 24 hours later, we counted the bacteria in the lung. As you can see here, this is the result we obtained. In absence of amoxicillin, we have a slight effect of flagyellin treatment. When we add 100 micrograms of amoxicillin, as you can see, amoxicillin alone is doing yes, one log tenfold diminution, decrease of the bacterial load, whereas the combination flagyellin increase by more than 1,000-fold this effect. And we have the same value for a dose that is four times higher. Interestingly, here what we can say regarding to the pharmacokinetic of amoxicillin, we reach about one-fold the minimal inhibitory concentration of amox in the serum with this dose of antibiotic. Here we reach 4 times the minimal inhibitory concentration, meaning that we can really improve the activity, the therapeutic activity of antibiotic by boosting innate immunity. And we think that this innovative adjunct therapy could be very useful to treat antibiotic-resistant pneumonia. So based on this, we wanted to have a more, I would say, translational perspective for development in humans. And the idea was to deliver flagyellin into the airways as we have performed it in the mouse model. So this is the model Epitelix that we used in collaboration with Samuel. So initially, we used a droplet of flagyellin at the air-liquid interface to analyze what are the response to this molecule. So the first question we ask is, does flagyellin induce innate human airway epithelium when delivered by this route? And this is a first analysis using gene set enrichment analysis. We can see that pathway related to innate immunity are induced in epithelium. So we're very happy of that because it's what we expected from this data, and making the translation to from mouse to human very strong. Regarding the genes that are upregulated in this model, we can see that there are many genes that are common, as previously presented by Professor Sherry, between the mouse and the human cell model. We can find some molecules that are related to cell recruitment, infiltration in the tissue, and also some molecules that have directly antibacterial activity. So, for example, beta-defensin 2 is here, some chemokines that are important for recruitment of cells, and so on. What was also performed is a dose response analysis, and we found that we have an activity that is in the range of 1 to 10 nanomole per lung, defined on the surface of the Epitelix filter, meaning that we will be able to induce such a response in the human lung, the real life, using 50 to 500 micrograms of molecule per lung. And the last data I wanted to show, we wanted also to define if its signature, its immune signature, is specific to healthy condition, as I presented before, or was something that could be also triggered in pathological condition. So we use two kinds of pathology associated epithelium, airway epithelium, one with a COPD background, and one with a mutation giving rise to cystic fibrosis, the delta F508, that is a major mutation in cystic fibrosis. This is a homozygous mutation. And as you can see, the pattern of activation was similar in both conditions, making this very interesting, I would say, for development of future therapy. So it's where we are at the moment. And what we would like to do next. So first, we have already done some aerosol delivery, both in mice and the human system, and it works pretty well. We have addressed the toxicity, both in mouse and human cells, and so we are very good, I would say, indicators of absence of toxicity. What remains to be done is to characterize the antibacterial epithelial response and to define mode of action of this signaling. We're using several approaches, as many others. We have already performed some RNA-seq experiment, and we are conducting proteomic also, especially in the air compartment, and lipidomic analysis. We have set up recently an infection model with a clinical strain of Streptococcus pneumoniae that has some resistance, and that could be used to test, that is the next item, the treatment of affected epithelium. So we have set up the condition of infection. We have a very controlled infection, and we'll test impact of flagellin in therapy, in prophylaxis in this model, in collaboration with Samuel. The other issue that we will have to develop is the infection with gram-negative bacteria. As you can see, I have a logo behind my head that is the antibio resistance logo. So the idea will be to focus on gram-negative bacteria that are a very important issue in terms of antibacterial resistance, antibiotic resistance. Sorry. And finally, and I think this is a very important issue, as I show you in the draft scheme of a mechanism of action, we strongly believe that the phagocytes are very important, and that the epithelium phagocyte crosstalk, both for infiltration and activation, is a major player in the system. And probably we'll need to reconstitute with these human primary cells some macrophage, monocyte, and neutrophil compartment. And also to address perhaps what are the other compartments that could be important. Here we focus on, with a nasal bronchial epithelium. We'll have to go for bronchiolar epithelium and even for alveolar compartment. And just to let you know where we are at the moment, we have set up a European project to go further in this investigations. So we plan to use this flagellin aerosol therapy to adjunct the treatment. And this is a team that is involved in the project. You can see that Samuel is here. It's a partner. Epidelics is a partner, and we're very happy to go to this to move forward this project. And the last one of the last slide. Here is a project. You can go on the website. It's a fairflagellin.eu. And the aim of the project is to set up the first phase 1 clinical trial by nebulization to make a first safety assay and some proof of concept in the immunological activity of flagellin. And here we like to thank the team, the person of my team that are involved in this work. You can see with the mask and without mask, and the funding agency, especially the GPIMR, Vaincre la mucoviscidose, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and the European Union for funding the project. And I thank you for your attention, and I am waiting for any question.
Yes, thank you very much, Jean-Claude, for this very, very nice and comprehensive talk. There are some questions from the audience, and I will start with the first one. Did you see any metabolic genes related in epithelium that respond to flagellin stimulation in LI?
I have to say we are just in the first step of the analysis. likely there will be some genes that are involved. We know that for TLR signaling, glycolysis is very important. So probably we expect to have a strong, I would say, background of transcripts related to glycolysis. And if not, probably we could see if there is any impact on the signaling. Recently, we had made a study with Tom van der Pol in Netherlands, showing that mTOR is very important for the TLR5 signaling using flagyellin of Pseudomonas aeruginosa. So if you inhibit mTOR, you can really have an impact on the signaling output. So metabolism is a major driver of response.
Okay, you have also shown a very nice infection model. So is it general, the activity of flagellin for all respiratory virus? If not, which viruses have you tested so far?
So in terms of virus, we have not tested so much. We have mainly tested the H3N2 influenza R virus. We know that it has a little bit impact the treatment by intranasal route on, we don't know really if it impacts the growth of the virus. It's something that we are currently investigating. We have done some other study, but this by the intranasal route, we don't know. What we have done is to use various serotypes of pneumococcus. So initially, we use serotype 3, but now we use 19F, serotype 24F, some non-vaccinal serotype that are of major importance because we know that we need treatment for this non-vaccinal serotype. And also we know that this works both in the superinfection model, but also in a primary infection with pneumococcus. We have shown that with serotype 1 pneumococcus, that is a very important cause of invasive disease.
Thank you. Another question related with the RNA-seq experiment that you have run comparing, let's say, human cells from COPD and cystic fibrosis donor. One question arises about why not using also asthma, for which TLR5 deficiency is important.
Yes, it's something that initially we explored that because we are funded by the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and also because we have a COPD background with collaborators here. Yes, it's probably something that has to be addressed in the future. What are the response of asthma, and I would say different grade of severity of asthma. It's the same for COPD. It's just tested, I would say, a classical COPD model of epithelics. And also for cystic fibrosis, we focus on the major mutation. There are other mutations that are perhaps also of interest to be tested.
Thank you very much. This is it for, let's say, a question from the audience. If, let's say, the chairs have some questions.
I have a question. I saw that you have a patent on your invention.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, are the drug company are interested in exploiting your invention or not?
It was licensed for a certain period to a company, but regarding the adjuvant property of the molecule, adjuvant for vaccination. So.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay, so if there is no more questions, so thank you very much, Jean-Claude, again, very great talk, and we will have now a break for 15 minutes. So please take advantage of this time to visit again the poster stations and potentially the Kumo space also, see if you want to be there. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you in 15 minutes.